What do you get when an unexpected travel mishap leads to international soccer stardom? Today, we're diving into the fascinating life of Folarin Balogun.
Hey, it's Garrett here, feeling pretty excited to dig into today's topic.
And I'm Leah, equally thrilled to explore this journey. Welcome to Laid Back Learning with Leah and Garrett.
Today, we're uncovering the story of Folarin Balogun, a rising star in international soccer with an intriguing international journey.
I've got a quick story to set the mood. I was at a local match a few years ago, just a community league game. The home team was down a goal, the sun was setting, everyone looked gassed, and then this teenager made a late dart into the box, took one touch across his body, and slid it past the keeper at the near post, a last-minute equalizer. The place went wild. It wasn't a big stadium or anything, but that moment had this electric pulse to it. It reminded me why strikers like Balogun feel so dramatic in the final third. He's made a habit of those late decisive runs, and he has that little glint you see when someone knows exactly where to be before everyone else figures it out. That's the thrill I think about when I watch him.
Totally. And speaking of where to be, Balogun is what people call a number 9. The classic central striker whose main job is to score goals. He operates high up the pitch, right on the last line of defense, and times runs to break in behind. What makes him interesting, though, is that he's not just a poacher. He can drop into pockets, link play, and act like a connector when needed, almost a trequartista at times. A trequartista is an attacking playmaker who lives in that space between midfield and the forwards. He learned some of those habits in youth soccer. So it's not just speed, it's how he reads space.
And his origin story is a wow moment. He was born in Brooklyn in 2001 because airline staff wouldn't let his mom, who was 7 months pregnant, fly back to London for safety reasons. That twist gave him U.S. citizenship by birth, and since he grew up in London with Nigerian parents, he had this rare triple eligibility: the United States, England, and Nigeria. That's a lot of doors to choose from later in his career.
On the field, I like to picture his movement like chess. He's the striker who doesn't just sprint straight. He curves runs, crosses a center back's eye line, and moves 2 or 3 steps ahead, like a knight jumping into a square that forces the defender to turn the wrong way. He'll go near post, then peel off far or sit on the shoulder and explode into a channel. It's calculated, not chaotic, and that's why he keeps popping up in those high-value spots inside the box.
Let's unpack his early path. He joined Arsenal's Hale End Academy, which is Arsenal's famous youth system in London. Fun detail, he was nearly a Tottenham Hotspur kid during trials, but chose Arsenal. Under Trevor Bumstead, who coached the Arsenal U16s, he won the Liam Brady Cup in 2017 against big academies like Bayern Munich and Juventus. That was an early sign he could hang with top talent. By February 2019, he signed his first pro deal with Arsenal and started tasting senior football in the 2020 Europa League. He debuted in October 2020 and scored his first senior goal a month later against Molde. Those European minutes were like controlled test drives.
All right, let's roll on to a crucial education in his career. In January 2022, he went on loan to Middlesbrough, a loan being a temporary move so you can get more playing time. Chris Wilder, who managed Middlesbrough at the time, used him as a second striker, a role a bit deeper than a traditional 9, so Balogun had to combine, hold up the ball, and time runs off a partner. That broadened his toolkit. Then, in August 2022, he moved on loan again to Reims in Ligue 1, France's top division. He scored on his debut against Marseille, and then, here's where it really popped. He bagged a stoppage-time equalizer at Paris Saint-Germain in January 2023. That's PSG, packed with stars. He followed that with his first senior hat-trick against Lorient just days later.
The Reims season is the pivot point for me. He finished with 21 goals in Ligue 1, 4th on the scoring chart, which is huge. That wasn't a team loaded with superstars feeding him tap-ins. It was him seeing the gaps, taking cross-body shots, those sharp near-post darts. Martin Keown, a former Arsenal defender turned pundit, even compared him to Ian Wright, an Arsenal legend known for clever movement and clinical finishing. You can see why that comparison sticks.
Before we jump to the national team choice, there's one strand that set everything up. He had already dipped into both England and United States youth setups. He took a US U18 call in 2018 and scored at a youth tournament, and he also played for England at youth levels, including the U21s. So the tug of war was in motion, and as his stock rose in France, each pathway looked more and more plausible. That's when recruitment gets creative.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The United States went beyond just phone calls. They brought him into cultural experiences like NBA games, the Orlando Magic, and the New York Knicks. That's not just fun, it's relationship building. It says, here's the sports culture, here's the community, here's where you fit on and off the field. That kind of outreach can matter to dual national players. Dual national just means you qualify to represent more than one country. And it worked. FIFA, soccer's global governing body, approved his one-time switch to the US in May 2023. A one-time switch means you lock in with the senior national team after having options and you can't switch again later.
Once the paperwork cleared, it moved fast. He got called for the CONCACAF Nations League finals in June 2023, and in the final against Canada, he scored in a 2-0 win. Immediate impact. He kept scoring in friendlies in September and October that year, and the U.S. lifted the Nations League again in early 2024. He even made the 2023 finals Best Ex-Wine, which is like an all-star team of the tournament. A serious vote of confidence right out of the gate.
Then came the club move. In August 2023, he signed a 5-year deal with AS Monaco for a reported €30 million, potentially rising to €40 million with add-ons. Add-ons are performance-based bonuses that kick in if certain targets are hit. His debut had a hiccup, a yellow card for simulation while trying to win a penalty. Then in his first start, he missed 2 penalties in a loss to Nice. That's a rough start by any measure.
But resilience is a skill. He rebounded, scored off the bench, and even after injuries disrupted most of 2024 to 25, he stormed into the 2025-26 season. He netted his first Champions League goal in November 2025 at Bordeaux and put together a brace against Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League in February 2026. Then he went on a run of scoring in 8 straight league matches in early 2026, tying that season's best streak across Europe's top 5 leagues alongside Kylian Mbappé. He added a goal and an assist in a league win over PSG in March 2026. By the end, he was Monaco's top scorer with 19 goals and 4 assists in all competitions and took their Player of the Season award.
On the international stage, 2024 brought highs and some tough moments. He scored against Bolivia at the Copa America and again in a loss to Panama, where he still earned man of the match with the U.S. playing a man down. Copa America is South America's main national team tournament, and sometimes teams from other regions are invited. After that Panama game, he and several teammates faced racist abuse online, which clubs and governing bodies, including Monaco and CONCACAF, publicly condemned. The important thing here is the strong immediate support around him. That unity matters. And then he kept it moving on the field.
Which brings us to 2026. He made the U.S. World Cup squad and scored twice on his World Cup debut against Paraguay at SoFi Stadium. He was the first American to score multiple goals in a World Cup match since Bert Patenaude in 1930, a gap of 96 years. That's history, plain and simple.
Why do you think his game translated so well from France to Monaco to the U.S. setup? I mean, different coaches, different systems. What holds constant there?
I'd say 2 things. First, 2-footed finishing. He can open his body and go across the keeper or whip it near post with either foot, so defenders can't cheat. Second, spatial IQ. No matter the formation, he reads center backs and fullbacks, then times the angle. That kind of decision-making travels well across leagues and national teams because it's about fundamentals, not just one specific system.
Okay, let's move on to a little friendly debate here. There's a discrepancy in his Reims tally. Some say 22 goals in his first season in France, others say 21. The 21 is his League One total. The 22 likely counts all competitions. I lean toward using league-only numbers for historical comparisons inside that league. It's apples to apples when you're placing someone on the League One scoring chart.
I hear you, but I kind of like the all competitions view when I'm thinking about a player's season. Cups and other matches still demand performance under pressure. A penalty in a cup quarterfinal or a late winner in Europe might not show up in the league-only tally, but it changes the season narrative. So I'm for the 22 if we're asking what he did for the club across the whole year.
That's fair, and I totally get that fans remember the big cup nights. My why question here is, when we compare strikers across eras, doesn't the league standard give us a cleaner baseline? Different teams enter different cup competitions, draws vary. League play is the constant grind where everyone meets everyone in a structured way.
Yeah, that's a solid point. League is the shared canvas. Maybe the best practice is both, league only for ranking within that league and era, and all competitions for the full story of a season. So with Balogun, you say 21 in League One to mark the fourth place finish, and if you want the whole arc, you say 22 in all competitions. Both truths zoom in on different parts of the picture.
Switching gears just a little, the pop culture crossover in his recruitment is such a modern thing. NBA games as part of a soccer courtship. It shows how federations are thinking more holistically about identity and community. It's more than tactics. It's here's the vibe, here's the life, here's the support system. I can imagine a great documentary that follows several dual national athletes through these decisions. Not just the soccer angle, but the family dinners, the phone calls, the stress, the joy of picking a jersey that feels like home.
For sure, and it also humanizes the numbers. Behind every goal tally, there's someone choosing a flag, a city, a locker room, and a lifestyle. With Balogun, those NBA nights feel like small puzzle pieces that help the bigger picture click into place.
All right, on to a counterfactual. What if his mom had been allowed to fly back to London in 2001? No U.S. birthright citizenship. That probably removes the United States from the three-way eligibility. Then what? Maybe he stays with England. He did play for their youth teams. Or maybe he leans into Nigerian heritage, which is a deep, talented national setup with a passionate fan base.
If he picked England, he'd be competing with a really packed striker pool, and the path might be slower, maybe more cups and friendlies before a major tournament roster. If he chose Nigeria, he could step into high-profile Africa Cup of Nations runs and World Cup qualifiers with major spotlight. Either way, the 2026 World Cup moment for the U.S., that two-goal debut, doesn't happen. The U.S. striker picture looks different, and maybe the recruitment focus shifts more aggressively to other dual nationals. It's wild how a single airport decision in 2001 might ripple into a national team's 2026 narrative.
And his club arc probably still includes that Reims breakout and the Monaco move, but the national team context changes how people frame him. Instead of the U.S. centerpiece, he's either part of England's depth chart or a headline addition for Nigeria. Different jerseys, different anthems, same striker instincts. It's a reminder that careers aren't just shaped by training and tactics. Sometimes they pivot on chance and timing. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Remember to keep exploring, stay curious.
Catch you next time, folks. Keep it chill.